58 and 15 seconds.
Hey, Dr. Paris.
Hi, Dr. McKenzie. How are you, sir?
I'm well. You can hear me and see me?
Hear you and see you well. Not a problem. Everything is okay.
Perfect. I can see you and hear you too.
Okay.
Appreciate your flexibility.
Of course, of course. And, at this point, I'm willing to do, whatever's within my capabilities.
Perfect. So I have your CV. Obviously, you have a lot of experience taking care of patients, right?
Yes.
Kids and adolescents, substance abuse,
Yes.
the full gamut.
Yes. Family.
And it looks like the last, you're like, when you do locums for extended periods of time.
That's correct. I do a locum, and that's the way I approach it. I don't know, I thought you may have needed something long term, but I usually approach it, if I like it, they like me, yes, we can work together for as long as it takes.
Yeah, and with this current locums company we have here, they're up for renewal in January, but we'll likely continue with them. And we get locum providers in that's they're a good fit. They like it, we like them, and they just go year to year to year, and they just extend, and it works out great.
Yes, it does. It cuts down on the paperwork tremendously, and it's important for me to know where I'll be, in a year or two.
Yeah, so you want stability and
Correct.
all of that, and
Correct.
best you can. Okay.
Correct.
So currently in New York, why North Carolina?
Because it's availability. They're offering me the opportunity, number one. North Carolina, I've never been there. This will be an experience for me. I do have dependents here in New York, and that's what kind of draws me back. But while I'm gone, there's not a problem. I'm really financially adept, so and I don't waste money. I don't do anything. So I work, I watch TV, and that's what I think about my patients. That's about it. I do CME. I do enjoy CME time. It's a time to network, but usually, North Carolina is someplace I've never been before. I'd like to experience it. I really would. In my military experience, I'd like to see the kind of person who goes there. It sounds almost like a retirement town. Is it? Last time I worked in the VA, I was taking care of mostly retirees and the disabled for some reason. Well, I do have family. I do have personal experience, personal history with disability. I've had family members who were blind, family members who had, prosthetics that I had to apply daily, braces I had to apply. So I have experience with disabled vets as well, and that's what I did in the past. So this will be interesting. I'd like to, see who presents my patient load.
Yeah, and North Carolina is a very cool place. When I was at Fort Bragg in the Army, like 26 years ago, last kid was born there. We said, hey, once we go travel, once I stay in the military for like 100 years and come back to North Carolina to retire, because beach on the east, mountains on the west, good highways north and south, east and west.
That's
People
great.
are, far enough north that there's open-minded folks.
I hear you. It's far enough north that you can talk politics easily, but which I never do. I usually don't talk politics. Yeah, but people look at me and kind of can tell where I am, where I'm going, what I want to do, and I just want to make my patients better, make their lot, maintain where they are, or make them better. That's what I ask of my patients, and I don't.
Okay.
Politics doesn't have to enter, and I never bring it in. I mean, my patients sometimes would bring it up, and I would just redirect them. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so have you ever worked in a VA? What's your VA experience?
As a locum, really short term. My VA experience was in a New Jersey VA. I don't even think it's open anymore, unfortunately, and it wasn't there for long. Yeah, I was there when it was beginning to close, but it was, as I said, it was with mostly disabled vets and working with families, a lot of family therapy, supervising family therapy, and I'm interested to know who I will be working with. I've always worked with teams. So, it'll be interesting to see who my staff, the staff I work with as well.
But when was that you had to work with the VA in New Jersey? When was, I don't see that on your CV.
Exactly, it was a short period of time, very short, less than a year. Things that weren't long, I didn't keep, and the reason I couldn't stay there, as I said, was I think it was beginning to close. It was closing. It was a large VA, and it was in New Jersey, New Jersey Orange VA, I think it was called at the time, but I'll do some research and make sure, but I worked there very briefly, as I said, and I was also introduced to telepsychiatry when I worked there. I would talk to vets who couldn't come in and who didn't need the eye to eye, the smell test. So I remember doing that.
We still have that.
Oh, great. So I do have experience with telepsychiatry. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's a good thing, because some vets, we treat some rural vets as well, and they don't want to drive in, and it's inconvenient, and why drive an hour for a 30-minute appointment, an hour home, and it makes very good sense that they have good bandwidth and they have the technological capacity to hit some buttons and log in. Makes life easy. About half the people like that.
Exactly.
Or usually the younger ones, the ones that are much older, they're face to face. They want to shake your hand. They want all that. But that's easy.
Right. The younger ones are so used to social media, and that's the other thing. I do have a social media presence, but it's professionally. It's the Facebook, Twitter messed up, didn't they? It's not even a real Twitter anymore. I like the old Twitter, but in the Marine, I have a 20-year experience in the Marine Corps. I was a computer programmer, so I remember what it took to get something out there, to make something usable, and Fortran, COBOL, the old stuff, but I'm very comfortable with computers, so it's never a problem. Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
So when was it that you worked at the New Jersey VA? What year was that? Do you remember?
It was at least 15, 20 years ago. So I would say like the late 1990s, 1999, or the early 2000s. I'm the youngest in my family, so I kind of took care of my parents, and I remember they were with me at the time, or I was caring for them. So it was before they passed, and they passed in 2010. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm asking because as far as the electronic medical record and familiarity with that, so if you worked at a VA 5 years ago, it's the exact same electronic medical record, but if it was that long ago, I'm not sure. Do you remember the name of the medical record you worked with in the VA?
No, I don't. But I do remember it was very cumbersome. But as I said, I love computers. I love technology. I'll sit there and figure it out. Within 3-4 months, people tend to come to me and ask me to do things for them on the computer. That's been my experience. And that's only because of the Marine Corps computer programming experience I have. Mm-hmm. So,
and 20 years of that, you're just wired for that, right?
Correct. And it's mostly trial and error anyway, right? With these computers, getting them to work, there's a trial and error process. So, I stay at it. And I know, and maybe you notice I'm like a 24/7 hour person. I do exercise, around 7 o'clock every morning. That's kind of like my only stable. But, otherwise I'm like a 24/7 person, and I was emailing you 2 a.m. in the morning. Sorry for that. I hope it didn't disturb you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So currently you work at the Kirby Forensic Psychiatrist down there. What's the EMR you use up there?
Epic. We use Epic.
Okay. And how do you like Epic?
It doesn't do enough, so I know I have a lot of extra stuff that I added in, but it's usable, and it's throughout the institution. I don't have a problem. And Kirby is associated with the Manhattan Psychiatric Center, and so we have to be able to log into both, because we do occasionally trade patients with them. We usually discharge patients to Manhattan Psychiatric, which is a long-term city, state-based psychiatric center. So I had to be adept at using the Epic system in both institutions. They were slightly different, as I said, but yeah, Epic it was cumbersome, but I could do it, not a problem. I trialed and errored it until I got what I needed.
Yeah, so that's one of my biggest things is the chief of psychiatry, bringing in locums that have never had VA experience. Sometimes takes a long time to get them up and running on our computer system, because it sounds like it may have been CPRS is what we use. Your word cumbersome, I would say, was accurate. So you may have been exposed to this, 2 decades ago or whatever.
I remember that name, CPRS. Yes. So and as I said, usually I'm up and running, within a month or two, and by the third month, I'm teaching others, the tricks I've learned.
Perfect. Yeah, I think you getting up to speed with our electronic medical records is not going to be a problem. You're 20 years of computer programming, and you seem sharp and high energy and committed. So all those things, that's a good combination. All right. And do you see any veterans in your current practice, or have you seen any veterans coming through the forensic psychiatric center?
I haven't had any, but through Manhattan Psych, I know they've had. But it's in my experience, from what I've seen of them, it's just so sad. They need a military-based intervention. They may do well under those conditions, and so it has to be tried. But no, I myself, in the forensic psychiatry unit at Kirby, we don't see them. And if I know one or two have come in, but it's like a mistake admission, so they're out within hours. Yeah, so no vets now, but the experience I have treating vets in the VA, and I worked psych ER at night. That was I saw lots of vets at that point.
Okay, perfect. Are you doing like restoration of competence at Kirby right now? What are you doing?
Well, we're trying to get the medication right so that they can stand up in court and interact appropriately with the judge. That's all we're trying to do. Get them. We get them when they're highly psychotic or unable to even speak sometimes, and we get them to the point where they can participate in their own defense. That's our mission. Get the patient to defense. So I work with the meds. I work with psychotherapy. I make sure the team is working with them, giving them their history, practicing with them over and over and over. And we trade patients too. We just don't do it on our unit. We'll get other patients from other units to test, and we'll send out patients to other units to test. So we get them ready to go to court, and so we don't have any. We have maybe one or two long-term patients, like terrible crimes. Patients, patricide. It's so sad, but it can be rewarding too. Sometimes I just want to smile out of a patient, and if I get that, I'm happy.
Yeah, restoration of competence. That's
yes, competence, exactly.
Touchy.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are your career goals, and what would you bring to this position in Fayetteville?
What I bring to the position, and then I'll move into my goals for going there. I bring personal knowledge of the military and their experience. They will know when they see Major USMC that we share experience. And I started as an enlisted person, so I can deal with enlisted as well as officers, and I can deal with I've never been in combat per se. The closest I ever got was this southern girl was shooting at me in the range. That's the closest I ever got to bodily harm. But I can empathize with that deeply, and none of my patients who have been in combat, you know, according to their history, has ever found my lack of it, you know, important. But I'm well aware of that. I keep that in mind when I'm bringing myself to, you know, working with patients, plus my psychopharmacology knowledge. You know, that's what I study. I love psychopharm, so I know what to give and how much to give, what the history is. So important to get that straight. So I work with that, and I make sure, and I enjoy working with a team. So, you know, I usually have a very good relationship with my team. You know, whoever, you know, the second in command, the third, fourth, you know, all the way down to the person who's, you know, whose job, who is like a, you know, a former patient. Those guys, I usually use those a lot too when I can, and that's the goal for some of the patients. My goal in coming to Fayetteville is the new experience, and I enjoy being around other military people. So, you know, I want to be immersed in that for a while, and you know, as long as it takes. You know, thank God I'm still healthy, knock on wood. So, you know, continue doing my exercises and, you know, experience new things. That's my goal. You know, and you know, to work and to work with you, of course.
Well, doing new things and trying to stay immersed in things and you know, energized by what you're doing keeps you young, keeps you clear.
Yes, exactly.
And you'll have immediate street cred. You hang stuff up says Major U.S. Marine Corps. You ought to have immediate street cred.
Exactly. In New York, freaking New Yorker. So it helps. So, you know, I know it's just presentation and it's presentation science, and I think I have that down. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. All right, when would you be available to start here?
No, it takes 2 weeks. I have to give them 2 weeks, so I would do that. Yes. And so we're, you know, we're almost near the 9th of July. So by August, hopefully, well, credentialing does take a while sometimes, but I have a pristine past. There's nothing in my past I have to worry about. So, you know, credentialing takes months sometimes. So we'll do that, and hopefully as soon as possible. Hopefully August. This time in August I'll be in Fayetteville, hopefully.
Yeah, so no issues getting your credential. Christine Bass, no arrests, no licenses that have been put in abeyance, no bad paperwork, no blah, blah, blah.
Nothing. Thank God, not on wood. I'm very careful, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thing to continue.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Okay. And would you be who would you be traveling with?
No, myself. As I said, I do have dependents up here, but I have people who can step in and assist me while I'm gone. So, and then I would set it up. You know, I would make that move. You know, I do family in New York, but a lot of my family members, there's 3 of us. I'm the youngest. I have an older brother who teaches up at Syracuse University, and he's 86 and he's still teaching. I have a middle sister who was a nurse. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a social worker. So I have a middle sister who's a nurse, and she's my dependent. So, but she would be fine, short period of time, and then we would make that transition, and she would assist in that move. So this is what I'm looking for in the future, to make a real change and see how that works out. And I'm sure that'll work out fine. I'm positive that'll work out fine, and we will do what's necessary. I will do what's necessary to make sure it works out fine.
That's good. And we're going to have more temperate climate here than in New York.
Exactly.
And your brother in Syracuse, upstate, that's like crazy cold.
Yeah, he gets Syracuse, Buffalo, they get the most snow. Always they tie.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're available as soon as possible. You do have, obviously, out of professional courtesy, you have to give them a 2-week notice. Credentialing process with us here, with the locums providers, they're very good at working with our credentialing program here because they're for-profit organizations, so it's not some government bureaucracy sitting around going, it's not my job, right? They're like,
competitive.
It's good.
Right, they're competitive. Yeah.
They're competitive. So they usually, thinking you could be here in a month or so, it is not unreasonable. That is possible with a clean background check. That's the big thing. So that could, the credentialing can screw you. So,
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to being down there in a month, and that would be great. So, you know, that's something I hope to look forward to.
okay, and so
Upon
where I
working.
need help, yeah, where I need help in Fayetteville. So we have there's Fayetteville Coastal Healthcare System. So Fayetteville is like the main hub, and there's there's a hospital there and there's a health center there. The hospital there, we have our ED, we have our 19-bed inpatient psych ward, which is nice, and then we have a 6-person team that covers the emergency department, does the consults, all that. Then I have 6 clinics across the state coming out here to Wilmington. I'm on the coast, so we're in 8 different locations total. But Wilmington, the need I have there is for behavioral health integrated program. So it's BHIP, and that's just, our version of, multidisciplinary team.
Okay.
So you usually have 2 psychiatrists plus or minus a clinical pharmacist, social worker, psychologist, a nurse on a team, and so you would have you'd be working with a team, and your energy and your personality would be, part of a team.
Understood.
So
Yeah.
you're not locked in a cubicle, just seeing one person at a time. So you have your morning huddles with your team, and you have like an hour a week you meet with your team, so you get to know your team, your patients. And it works out pretty well. It sounds like you have the personality for all of that, so that's a good thing. How do you get along? I mean, how do you deal with like conflict?
I really try to avoid it. But it's my job to manage whatever conflict, wherever I see it. If somebody else is managing it, fine. If another professional psychiatrist, psychologist who's not involved, who can be, I feel is objective, is managing it, fine. But if I see a conflict anywhere, I will try to resolve it. It's, because they'll escalate. We don't want escalation. So, in the staff, in colleagues, I'll do whatever's necessary to resolve it. With patients, I separate them. There's a procedure we use. You medicate, you do what's necessary. Whatever. I'll learn the procedure of wherever I am. You say maybe Wilmington because that's where need is. So I'll see what's there and work with it. And I understand that as my job. Conflict, I have to resolve it, either with my colleagues, staff, or with patients. Patients, is a routine. Colleagues, there's details I may not be aware of. So, I have to do a generalized, come on guys, hug it out, quit it, stop, whatever it takes, and as the leader, as the psychiatrist, as the MD, I feel it's my responsibility to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can't mitigate conflict in the wrong line of work, and you've been doing this quite a long time, right?
Yes, and it has changed, hasn't it? There was a period where we couldn't, put them in separate rooms or put them in a special room, or they had to be on 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 sometimes. Some of our patients here are on 2 and 3-to-1. So we have to, even with all the medications, and when I have a patient like that, I usually try to get to know them and start all over again. They need the medication, I know that, and people who are working with me know the patient, but let's do something different, because obviously, I don't want him to get worse. We want to try and get better. But that takes a lot. It does take a lot, and it's not done lightly at all.
Okay, fair. All right, what questions do you have for me?
Specifically, where do you see me working? Where would I fit in the organization? And, and what can I do on my off time specifically once I get to know the place? What can I do in terms of my job? Is there any work I could do? If I'm working in depending on the setting I'm working, let's work on the setting where I'm sending the patients, or a setting before the patients come to me. I try to do that once I'm, in the job. Just to keep it exciting. So this is how I see it evolving.
Okay. Yeah, so my need right now is in Fayetteville
Okay.
on Ramsey Street. There's 2 locations. Fayetteville is Ramsey Street's the location that has the ED and the inpatient ward and all that kind of stuff. So you get you'd be, and what we have, it's called Behavioral Health Village. There's a handful of buildings outside the main hospital. You'd be in building 57, which you'll see. And that's where we have our BHIP teams.
Okay,
And
so I would have my own office, or would I be part of a large, type setup? I'd have my own office.
You'd have your own office.
Good. Okay.
And new patients, you get 60 minutes to see them, follow-ups at 30 minutes.
Got
You
it.
have administrative time during the day, so right now it's 40-hour weeks, and we book for 30 hours out of 40, so there's 10-hour, so 25% times like admin time and
I remember.
things like that.
Yeah.
And as you as everybody's gonna be new to you because you're not gonna, you're not assuming like a panel and all that kind of stuff. So it will take some time to get up to. It may be a slow start for you initially, even though we have a great need. Right, there's a lot of patients to be seen, but you won't. You're not gonna. I'm not gonna hand you. Hey, here's 500 patients. Here's a panel.
Right.
It won't be like that.
I appreciate that. Right.
Yeah,
They'll be integrated into a practice. They'll be integrated into a practice that may be already there, and I'll get new patients, but not all new patients. Oh, understood.
Yeah.
All right.
It seems to be a good balance. And so usually people see 10 to 12 patients a day. That's the average.
Not a problem, and the paperwork, I've never had a problem with call it paperwork, but it's computer work. Never had a problem with that. Never had a problem with that. I always got it done either, I'll get it done daily, because that first impression in psychiatry is so important. That first feeling you get with a patient, and what you need to do is so important to get down, because you need to remember it the next time you see the patient. It's very important.
100%, yeah. And so to facilitate that, do you usually dictate, or are you a very confident typist, or what are you?
Right, I usually type it in, and I'm not a touch typist. I see these guys, the younger ones especially, they touch type. I'm not a touch typist, but I do get the stuff in, and I can type. 50% touch type, but I get it in, and I get it in fast enough for me and everybody else around me. And I'm good with it, and I'm good with responding to emails from people, from other people. I keep my email box clean. If not, I don't read everything, of course, but I keep it clean.
Okay. And so, all right, that's great. Yeah, and try and you've probably done that for your career. Try to get all your today's documentation done today. And you go home at night, life's better.
Yes.
It's just life's better.
Exactly. So I get the paperwork done. I get it done either immediately, and as I said, because that first thing you think you need to do with this patient, is important to get in the record, and either immediately or at the end of the day, and or lunchtime, or I'll take people don't always come on time, so you can get that done. Patients refuse to come and don't want to come, you can use that time, and that's how I do it. I've never had a problem.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Me too. Okay, and you're board certified. Are you involved in the mock?
Yes, maintenance certification. As a matter of fact, I do CME. I go away live CME. That usually satisfies me. There's one I go in February and one I go, unfortunately, in August. But the August one is like a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So as long as I think I give it enough of time, I can get it. But it's 51 points a year, and these 2 CME events that I go to, one in January, February, and which is in Nevada, usually in the Paris Hotel in Nevada. I go there. It's given by the Nevada Psychiatric Association, and it's well done. I really enjoy it. And I go to the one in, it's done by Dr. Kaufman, NYU. He does one, and that, like I said, is a weekend. And I do those 2 activities, and that supplies the CME. I do know colleagues who do the testing, and I'm not. What do you do? You do, sir, if you don't mind my asking.
Yeah, I do maintenance certification, so I do the articles and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
and so I have to do 75 articles every 3 years. I pick up a lot of CME. We have a program called Up to Date.
Yes, I've used it. I don't use it for CME. I usually use it for information. Yeah.
But you can use it for CME. The VA has a license with them, so
Great.
literally you could do. I do 50 CMEs a year on up to date.
Yes.
Just because it's that I'm busy,
Yes.
and I'm able to do that. This year I'm going to a conference in Colorado Springs because I have a kid that lives there. But
That's nice.
so
That's great. How many children do you have, sir?
yeah, three, and they're 31 to 26.
Wow. Okay. Oh, interesting age, isn't it? Nice.
How about you?
No, I've never had children, never really wanted. When I became a Marine and became an officer, I was married for like 3 months. So you may see information like my DD-214 from the military has my married name, which was Renfro, R-E-N-F-R-O-E. But lasted, like I said, 3 months. He knew it, I knew it. We follow each other on Facebook to this day, but I was never his type, you know. And he was a military man also. He was another officer, you know, a colleague as opposed to, you know, very careful with fraternization stuff, but he was a colleague. We got 3 months. We agreed it didn't last. And from what I've, you know, seen of him on Facebook and what he's seen of me, you know, he's happy, I'm happy, you know, and like I said, I've always had dependents that I've had to manage. So, you know, even now, my boyfriend, as I say, is another psychiatrist out in Nevada. You know, he has a house out there, I have a house, you know, I have a condo here. You know, we visit each other occasionally. He comes east. He has property in Atlantic City, so he comes here to, you know, manage that. And, you know, we see each other at that time. But he and I have been together since medical school. So, you know, and I was a surgeon initially. I was a transplantation surgeon, and that has a big impact on what I do now because I make sure I see the patient physically as well, you know, medically as well as psychiatrically. Because sometimes, you know, something medically has to be tweaked or has to be addressed for the patient to, you know, to improve. And so I do have people, you know, that I take care of and who are my dependents. And as I said, hopefully they will be moving down with me once I'm settled in Fayetteville. That'll be fun.
Yeah, so the locals folks they'll put you up,
Right.
And, you know, find about, you know, the housing and all that kind of stuff. But if you're gonna be a long term, like you have the last couple of places, you're planning on moving here and kind of living here, you probably want to buy something at some point maybe. But that's not. You'll figure all that out. You'll see what the fit's like, you'll see what the area's like, and all that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think, Estelle, you'll be a very good fit for our system.
Okay. Thank you.
And so I will reach out to Emily through the SI2, that's our contracting company. I'll tell her, yeah, I think it'll be a great fit for us here in Fayetteville. And then once she gets my email, that starts their process that moves fairly quickly.
Great, I'm ready to move, sir, not a problem.
And yeah, they'll probably reach out to you today.
Good to go.
Okay, so I look forward to welcoming you to Fayetteville when you get here, and you'll go through some training to get you refreshed with CPRS and all of that stuff. You'll have teammates around to answer questions and
like an orientation process. Got it.
all of that. Yeah, all of that.
Okie doke, sir. That's great. Looking forward to
Okay.
it. All right, and I look
Look
forward to her email, and thank you very much. This was enjoyable and informative. Thank you.
Okay, look forward to working with you and bringing you on board.
Same here, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Okay.
You too.
I think it went well. You think it went well? No. 33 minutes. 34 minutes. Stop.